Alrighty, what is good, gang? Welcome to our new episode of Count the Bucket. Amber is feeling under the weather, so she's not here with us today. But I do have one of our guests that comes in all the time. Actually, CJ, at first, we were talking about having you just kind of as our spotlight guest that we have been doing, but you've been upgraded to co-host for today. Sound good?
Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me. Amber, hope you feel better.
CJ, if you want to go ahead and do a little plugs, because I do know you do your own show with Connie, and just kind of want to go ahead and take care of any of that stuff. But I mean, you're pretty much a face that's in here every other week almost. But go ahead.
Yeah, so Connie and I host a Hard Count every Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, covering all things football, NFL, talking about the latest news, latest topics. The last couple of weeks, we've been doing some division previews, just getting ready for the season. Training camp is approaching, so there's a lot of content going forward. And then I'm also the host of the Garter podcast, my own podcast covering everything NBA. So you can find me on both of those platforms, streaming everywhere.
I'm going to write that down because I don't think I've subscribed to that Guard Up, but I need to. Guys, a little apology here because we are so late. I just got off work, hustled home, got everything set up here. As you can see, I'm still in a polo. That looks really weird, me and my pink polo. But, sometimes you got to wear what you got. But before we get really diving into the NBA and what's going on now, let's go ahead and take, as we always say, pay our bills. But let's take a first look here at the main one. My favorite is our Patreon. And, of course, you can go to – let me pull it up on my screen even though I'm sharing it here. You can go to patreon.com/Unwrapped Sports, and this will get you access to all this. And, of course, we have the $1 per month where it just lets you know you're a fan. There's also the $5 a month, which is Unwrapped Sports Family. We appreciate it. You get 10% off 10% off Patreon code to our Unwrapped Sports Teespring shop, which, of course, you all have heard us talk much about the Teespring. Teespring.com/store/unwrapped, where you can find all of our merchandise, gear to all of our shows that we have going on as well. But then the main one that we really appreciate is the Unwrapped VIP Star, which is $10 a month. You not only get a 10%, but you get a 20% code to the Unwrapped Teespring shop. Access to our 24/7 Patreon, where you can actually interact with us on the Discord as well. And then there's also so many different drawings that we have, merchandise that we give away. I think this month we are giving away he just retired. Almost got his name. Mark Ingram. There we go. For the Ravens. The jersey is signed by Mark Ingram. So by all means, please go check out all that stuff. Be a part of the family and help support us because this is how we have fun and that helps us get paid. All right. So, of course, we've got more. We'll kind of hit into those as we go on. CJ, I think you and I kind of mentioned this once in our group chat where we were talking about just coaches for the Blazers, and I think you disagreed with me on who I said, but I'm not for sure. Maybe I misread that.
Yeah, I think I might have missed that convo.
Okay, I thought maybe I can't remember. Well, obviously I can't remember, but I thought it was you. But just the other day I was just kind of talking about this and actually seeing this on Bleacher Report being kind of a headline now. So I don't want to get straight into the playoffs right now because we know we still got the games going on. There's a lot that's been going on as well. But I want to talk a little bit about Blazers' future. And at first I want to talk about the head coach, who we got running for this. And also I want to talk about their future a little bit because to me personally, the Blazers are almost at that pivotal point. How do we improve or do we break this stuff up? So I want to hear who you think possibly good candidates for the Blazers. What do you think they're going to be going forward?
So this is going to be a big time move for the future of the Trailblazers. Obviously, Damian Lillard dropped an Instagram post right after losing to the Nuggets in 6 last week, pretty much talking about how disappointed he was, probably in the series and probably in the team as well. So I've heard reports about Mike D'Antoni potentially getting some interviews. I believe Becky Hammond as well. I know she got some other teams are looking to interview her. Celtics, so Orlando as well. So. I think those would be good options, but whoever they bring in is going to have to be with the blessing of Lillard. Obviously, Lillard, originally wanted Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd's from Oakland. They have that type of connection. They've had a relationship for a very long time. Made sense, but Kidd didn't want to be put in that position because push come to shove. If it doesn't work out, Lillard leaves, then he looks like one of the reasons why Lillard leaves. And I kind of understand it from that point, and I think some candidates now are a little apprehensive and potentially trying to make that move because we know about Lillard's disappointment and his dismay. It's going to come up to that front office as well. Going to have to acquire some guys, some more talent to around Lillard to make him stay. The West is extremely competitive, but like we see now, we see a couple small market teams in Phoenix, in Utah, still making impacts right now in the Western Conference. Both teams still in the Western Conference semis, and potentially can meet up in the Western Conference Finals. So I think it's a big move for the Trailblazers going forward. And like I said, they're gonna have to get the right head coach and get the right roster. I think a good fit. I think a guy like Chauncey Billups. He's been around for a very long time. Champion as a player, point guard. It seems like a lot of these point guards do a good job of being a head coach, like Jason Kidd as well. Like we've seen Scott Brooks, Nash, of course. There's Nash as well. So I think that'll be a good fit.
Here's some of the names that have been dropping right now: Jeff Van Gundy. Let's see here, Jason Kidd, which we've talked about. Juwan Howard. Let's see, Mike D'Antoni, and the last one was Chauncey Billups. So you actually kind of hit on all those. I would like to see Chauncey Billups. I don't think he's really had that good of a shot as far as this so far. I know they talked about with Cleveland, he would be a front office man there, and he turned that down, which I don't blame him because that was as LeBron was leaving. I don't know why anyone would want to take that. I like Jason Kidd as a head coach. I know I mentioned this with Amber before, and she kind of brought up his old past, which I was actually unaware of how the relationship with him and his wife had went out with some abuse going on there, domestic abuse. Yeah. I don't know the details, so I'm not going to go into that. But just with that, of course, Jason Kidd was one of my all-time favorite players, so that's why I kind of was hoping for him. I like Mike D'Antoni just in case Lillard was to stay. I feel like Dame would automatically be in the top 5 running for MVP just because of Mike D'Antoni. Everywhere he went, there has been an awesome, outstanding point guard that has won the MVP. Steve Nash, who I felt like was nowhere before Mike D'Antoni. And then, of course, what he did with James Harden, and, of course, James is still good. So I feel like that would be a good fit. I just don't think, and I said this in our chat, I don't think Mike D'Antoni is ever going to win a ring, but I also don't think the Blazers are ever going to win a ring right now at this situation. So it's almost, I think, it's twofold as far as which way you want to go as an organization. Do you want to still try to win now? I've always not been a big fan of Carmelo Anthony, but yet he's been good for the Blazers. I do feel like that position almost has to increase some way because he was basically the number 2 guy for the team this year, and he's not really his prime anymore, so that's kind of a problem there. But, of course, CJ was hurt for so long. So I think this is a very interesting spot for them. I almost feel like this is a team that may need to break it up or bust it up and start fresh. I don't think they do that, but, one thing I talk about with Connie on my baseball show is there's always that one little lukewarm, as most people refer to it, the 500 teams where you don't have your identity. You're almost at that level where you could be good, but you're also mediocre. Like, do you want to keep being top mediocre, or would you rather have a couple years of being less mediocre and then make the prospects and make a run for it? So that's how I kind of feel on that. I think the immediate hire would be Mike D'Antoni if I were to pick one. What about you, if you had to pick?
So D'Antoni, excellent head coach. Great, excellent offensive head coach. And then defensively is where he lacks. I think personally, he obviously probably had a say in the Capella move. Looking back, I think that probably hurt the Rockets more than helped them, especially against a team like the Lakers last year, who just pretty much outmanned them on the front court. Defensively, that's not his strong suit, and that's not the Trailblazers' strong suit when they had Terry Scott. So I'm not sure about that relationship. Yes, that's a good point. Like you said, Lillard. He does do a great job of making sure with the star players, with Nash, with Harden, they both won MVPs, like you alluded to. I think his numbers would be great, but what's the team success? Playing five out. It doesn't work in the playoffs. We've seen it already. We saw it multiple years in Houston. The reason why it kind of works in Brooklyn is because they have 3 guys that could get you a bucket as opposed to just one, like we saw in Houston. So he's a really good coach, but just defensively, I just don't know. They already don't have a great rim protector. You know, Nurkic is a solid big, a really good big, but when it comes to pick and roll defense, when it comes to being an anchor on that in the middle, that's not really his strong suit either. So, you know, I think it would be a quick fix hire, but I don't know if it'll keep Dame in Portland for the foreseeable future. And I think obviously that's what Portland needs to do in order for them to keep him. I mean, he's a big time star.
I'm going to ask you a question that you may not be prepared for on this is what would be a dark horse candidate that no one may be thinking of, an up-and-coming coach? Is it you thought of anyone that may be a surprise hire on that?
Dark horse. I would say maybe a guy like Sam Cassell. I mean, he's been around for a very long time, been an assistant coach for years under Doc Rivers. I think he was with Ty Lue for a little bit as well. You know, his name has always been in the mix, but he's just never seemed able to get that job. I think he could be a guy that should be interviewed, but it's tough. It's a tricky situation. Whoever's going to be the next head coach, because it's a lot of pressure on that head coach to make sure everything goes right to keep a guy like Dame in Portland, because he could easily just, you know, if they have another subpar season, because everybody. I mean, I picked the Trailblazers to win the series against Denver. I thought they had more talent, and I thought they were able to, because without Murray being there, I thought they'd be able to, you know, get it done. But they're defensively, it just wasn't a factor. So, you know, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure on whoever's going to be that next head coach, man. I think that's me. I think some candidates might be a little hesitant. You don't want to go in there at that being your first head coaching job.
Oh yeah,
you're being put in a fire like that. So it's tough, man. It's tough, but they gotta figure it out. I understand your point about potentially blowing it up. I mean, I think they should. I mean, I just feel like I just don't see, unless they bring in a marquee guy, something happens in the summer, or a star is disgruntled and he decides he wants to team up with Dame in Portland for a year or so and try to see if it could work. Unless something like that happens, I just don't know where they could go, because again, like I said, the Suns are better, the Jazz are better, the Grizzlies are going to be right there. Denver's going to get Murray back. The Lakers are going to get AD and LeBron healthy. I mean, it's just, I feel like their window was a couple years ago when they got to the Western Conference Finals. And they had an opportunity to get to the finals, but they lost to Golden State and got swept. And they had every opportunity to get there. I think they had leads in every game of that fourth quarter, every single game, and they just weren't able to get it done. I think after that, you could just see they kind of had a limit to their squad. So yeah, I think blowing it up, try to get some picks for Lillard, try to start the thing over again. I mean, you're a small market, but you got to try. I mean, they've had some pretty good picks along the way. LA, Roy, Lillard, obviously. McCollum was a good pick. So I mean, they drafted pretty well in recent years. So that could be an option as well.
Now, since we are talking about possibly blowing it up, who would they be trading away, or who would they want to keep?
Well, if you completely blow it up, you got to let Lillard go. I mean,
right.
I just feel like, you know, you could get the most out of him in terms of assets.
Bang for your buck on that.
Right, exactly. In terms of assets and draft picks, potential young players that are on that, you know, maybe just need a fresh start. It could be on the rise and make an impact on the Trailblazer team, something like that, and then get a young head coach and then start all over again. Get a young head coach, and maybe he's just a bridge coach to being, you know, something better. If that whoever they acquire could be really talented. So I think if they were to do that, yeah, McCollum, CJ, and I mean, you get those are probably guys you're going to get the most value from.
Right. I guess what I'm really asking is, do you keep CJ and get rid of Dame so you can try to get more for that and build with CJ, or do you get rid of them both and just clean house, and then you get Mark Jackson as your coach and then give him a second chance, because we know Golden State did him wrong, and let him have another head coaching job and build that from the ground up?
I think for Mark Jackson, if anything, if there's a job out there, he'd want to go to a team that's probably gonna be in playoff contention.
Oh yeah,
that's my opinion. Now I could be wrong because he did.
Oh no,
he did the build and develop in Golden State, and like you said, you saw what happened. And once those guys became the guys, they let him go. So I think he probably wants to get into a situation where the team is already set, the roster's good, the star players are there for multiple years, and he's just gonna fit in and try to do his part and try to hopefully get them to the promised land. So. I don't know about Jackson, but yeah, I would say Lillard and McCollum, you would get the most value for. Both are excellent shot creators and could be potential really good pieces on some contending teams out there, especially in the Eastern Conference maybe.
Do you think Melo they would try to trade him, or do you think he would just retire because no one else gave him a chance?
Yes, that's true. Melo, I think Melo's a free agent. Right now.
Okay. So of course, he's making the bare minimum anyway.
Right.
So it's
exactly. I think at this point he'll probably go to another contender. I don't see why. He could go team up with his guy LeBron, or he could go he could go to Phoenix, or team up with probably one of his guys that he knows that they're going to help him out, get him the ball, get him the rock, put him in the right spots to still do what he could do, even though he's 37. I think those will probably be the best spots. Right now for Melo, but there would be no. I don't think teams at this point would try to trade for Melo. He might come back. He might come back to the Knicks. Maybe not. We could use some veterans over here in the Garden that could get a bucket.
That's actually what I was thinking. Was what if he went back to New York? Thank you, Robbie. Thank you for my fan club. Thank you for always showing up. I do appreciate it. Do you think that the Garden would have him back?
Of course, 100%. He's definitely one of the most popular Knicks we've had in recent years. Some things happen. I think it was roster front office things when we were Melo in New York. But when he played, he put a lot of people in the seats. The Garden was rocking every single night, every single time he was there. Got to a couple playoff appearances. The head coaching hires weren't the best. Again, that's what I'm saying. If you bring Mike D'Antoni in, Melo probably won't be there because he doesn't have a great relationship with D'Antoni in Houston and New York. So that probably, that definitely wouldn't work. I wouldn't mind him coming off the bench. Matt, what's going on, brother? Coming off the bench.
Well, I'm sorry, I was bringing it at the same time there. What's up, Matt? Welcome to the show. Thank you.
I wouldn't mind him coming off the bench. Being a valuable piece, being that 6-man guy. If you're able to keep Rose as well, I think that'd be a pretty good veteran second unit.
I would like him in Charlotte too.
Sure. Yep. Got a great relationship with Jordan. Signed with the Jordan brand. He could come off the bench. They have a nice flowing offense. He can move. He could. He really developed his spot up 3-point shooting, and he realized that's what you're going to need in order to last in this league, especially in today's NBA. And then at times, when they need him to get a bucket, he can still get the ball on the block and still work. So. Charlotte, New York, I could see him coming back to the East and still making an impact.
If he went to Charlotte, the only problem I would have is that fast-paced tempo of the young guys. I think that he would definitely have to be getting some RX Hemp going on him. And speaking of RX Hemp, let's go to rxhemp.com, and you can use the promo code USN. I'm sorry, RX Hemp-USN. That gets you the 50% off, I think it is, for your first purchase or your purchase there.
It's 10%.
15. Is it 10%? I thought it was 15. Okay. So get that percentage off of there on your order, and it's all the CBD creams, the hot and cold. And as we always hear from Amber, be careful when you apply it because it doesn't start in effect right away. Give it about 5 to 10 minutes, and you really start to feel the cool start kicking in. Garrett learned the hard way. He rubbed too much, a little too low on a knee, and somehow it got places it shouldn't have been. He learned the hard way. All right. So speaking of that, speaking of East Coast, the tempo will be going on there. Can we talk a little bit about the bodyguard with the Nets and what happened there, CJ? If you don't care, just give us a little background of what went on, because I know you knew all about this.
Yeah, so, two guys, two competitors in PJ Tucker, Kevin Durant, exchanging words on the court during an intense playoff battle, Game 3, a lot on the line for Milwaukee, potentially go down 3-0. And, they were barking, talking or whatever, got the guy in their face. Coaches try to separate, and then just some random guy in all black attire just comes out of nowhere and just shoulder checks PJ Tucker. And everybody's like, "Who is that?" Because usually you just see the coaches or players just break it up, and the guy just comes in from the stands and just shoulder checks PJ. PJ's like, "Yo, who's that? What's going on?" And then we later find out that it ends up being KD's bodyguard, kind of weird. I'm pretty sure there's been a lot of bodyguards for players during altercations.
Oh, yeah.
Never stepped in on the court. So that's tough. Yeah, Matt, what's up, bro?
Speaking of random people just showing up,
Yes, sir.
Matt just pops in here. What I thought was crazy, and Matt, I'm going to ask you about your opinion on this in just a second and let your input come in here, is I think I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, that his KD's actual bodyguard is actually on the payroll for the Nets. Like, how does he have a personal bodyguard that the Nets organization is just flat out paying for? Like, why isn't KD paying for that?
I mean, the Nets are like, KD, what do you need in order for you to come to Brooklyn? And I mean,
a bodyguard.
It's probably just one of those little incentive things, to bring him to Brooklyn, try to get that championship, which I think is definitely in sights for them.
Yes. Matt, did you hear about this bodyguard incident? Have you heard anything on that?
I did. I heard about it. I had no idea that the bodyguard was under KD's payroll. I mean, think
under the Nets payroll, not even KD. So the Nets were paying for it.
Under the Nets payroll, I had no idea it was KD's personally. I thought it was just a regular bodyguard doing his thing, going out in the court, just doing whatever. But when I found out it was, I guess, under the payroll of the Nets and it was KD's bodyguard, I was just like, okay, why does KD need that? I mean, hey, unless like CJ mentioned, it was used to persuade to get KD to join Brooklyn, by all means, you do it, you go for it. But
of course,
it's just one of those where it's like, it's interesting. I mean, I would have never expected that to happen, but I mean, you know what? Basketball is a crazy place. Sometimes you get those bodyguards, and that's just what happens.
Mm-hmm. Like, when I first heard it, I was like, okay, KD's got a bodyguard, all good. I understand. Hey, he better come out there. He's being paid for it. But then when I heard that, like, Brooklyn is paying this guy to only watch KD, I kind of started thinking, well, what's Kyrie think of that? What's Blake Griffin think of this? Like, whoa, hold up. Why is this guy so great that we're paying? But then I wonder, do they even have their own bodyguards that Brooklyn's paying for?
Kyrie, I'm sorry, Kyrie's probably wondering, where's my bodyguard when that dude from Boston threw a water bottle at me?
Yeah, like where was he then? Like, does this guy just sit like close to the – I mean, I'm sure since Brooklyn's paying him that he's probably has a seat somewhere around the bench so he can guard the body. But, like, you would think he would be in some kind of code here, like, I don't know, a dress code or a name, because – at first, it looked like PJ thought this was just a random fan in a way that ran out, because he started hollering at him. But he was on the payroll to be doing exactly what he did. Like, you feel like he would be in a tie.
Maybe he should have had one of those where it said Nets
security,
or
even KD. Like, just have KD security. We'd been fine, just somehow to identify yourself. And I just think it's crazy, especially right now in the NBA where we have this fan interaction and what's going on there, that it gets a little crazy what's going on. And then to have somebody that Milwaukee did not know who he was, it could have got a lot worse, actually, I think, for the bodyguard to do his job. But I seen it released today. I don't know how early or what, because when you're at work, you just kind of catch stuff going on. But Milwaukee has banned this bodyguard now. He cannot work in Milwaukee for the Nets.
Well, that's gonna be interesting for tomorrow. Just be like, well, imagine here on ESPN, Game 4, security guard inactive for the Brooklyn Nets due for the incident in Game 3. He has been suspended from Milwaukee. We'll see him in Game 5.
Yeah, sorry. Take the day off, go on vacation for a couple of days, and meet you back in Brooklyn. Like, just the craziest thing ever. I feel like
weird as ever, man.
So, speaking of Brooklyn, let's transition just a tad bit and stay with the same team. Harden has been out for the whole series, and we're going into Game 4. Are we more concerned with his injury now, or do we just think that this is rest? Because, honestly, Brooklyn has only been the three-headed monster with everyone else for maybe 7 to 10 games, I think, all year. So are we concerned with this? Do we think it's just mild precautions, or what's going on here? Matt, we'll start with you since you randomly joined in with us here.
I think I'm not as concerned. Here's what I will say for Brooklyn's side of things and James Harden. I think it will only be a concern if the series is tied at 2. If Brooklyn wins, if Milwaukee wins tomorrow and the series is tied at 2, that's when we should really focus on, okay, James Harden, you might need to be ready for Game 5 because we can't afford to go down 3-2 because Milwaukee would have all the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I will say, though. If Brooklyn takes care of business Game 4 and goes up 3-1, that's when you kind of look at James Harden and say, all right, we won't need you for this series. We'll need you for the next. I think Brooklyn is just playing the precaution of, as long as we're in control of the series, James doesn't need to play. But if things are starting to get out of hand, then we'll throw in James Harden and not fully, not 35, 40 minutes, but in more of like a minutes restriction. So I think I'm glad that Brooklyn's not playing him for Game 4. I don't think he needs to because you're still up 2-1 in the series. Mm-hmm. It would only be afterwards. If Brooklyn somehow loses Game 4 and the series is tied at 2, I'd definitely be paying attention for Game 5 to see how Brooklyn's going to approach this. Are they going to approach the situation of, all right, we might need to play James because we could be down 3-2, or are they just going to say, you know what, James, just wait for Game 6. If there's a Game 6, we'll put you in for the final 2 games of the series if necessary. But if Brooklyn goes up 3-1, I don't think there's going to be any concern for James. I think they'll just rest him the whole series, unless if the only time I will probably see James Harden playing is if Brooklyn is panicking in this series. That would be the only time. And by panicking, that means is if they are down 3-2, or if you're up 3-1 and you lose Game 5, that would be the only time I would see James Harden in. Other than that, it's pretty much going to be rest that hamstring, get prepared for the Eastern Conference Finals to play either Philadelphia or Atlanta, and then you'll be full steam ahead, ready to go.
I know it's kind of crazy with hamstrings. Not that I'm no James Harden or anything, but I'm 35 years old, and 5 years ago on my birthday at my church, we were playing volleyball in the sand where you can kick the ball, and it was short, and I reached my leg out, almost did like the splits. I'm a little agile for a big man, and I pulled my hamstring. I still have troubles out of this hamstring. Like at work, I'll lift something up and be like, oh, that was my hamstring. I felt it. So hamstrings are a little difficult to come back for. So it makes me iffy on this because I think it's the same one he hurt earlier in the year. But CJ, how do you feel on this?
Is your code name Michael Harden? Got the beard game, little hammy.
Hey, we both left-handed too, and I dominated basketball. What can I say? I mean,
hey, all I gotta see now is I gotta see the step back. I gotta see that 3-step step back.
Now I will say this: we actually played some volleyball yesterday. Got a bunch of guys together. We've got a gym at our church too, where we actually have an official net that we actually play at sometimes. And before we started playing, granted, I have not played basketball in 3 years since our church league stopped because of COVID and everything else. Beat one of our bigger one of our better guards 1-on-1 to game of 5, beat him by 3. Just going to say, did hit a step back 3 bank to win it. Wasn't trying to bank it, but I didn't tell him that, so I still got it.
Hey, there we go, Michael.
I lost a lung on the game.
Using that killer MJ instincts. It's in
that's
the
right.
name.
Listen, I'm telling you. Anyway, CJ, back to a more serious topic here. What are we thinking on Harden here?
I agree with you. That's definitely because he's had the injury before. He's missed, I think, a substantial amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
He was in that MVP conversation for a little bit before he got hurt as well. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. They take a hit. They lose some playmaking. They lose a guy that can score and play make in that second unit when KD and Kyrie are on the bench. He takes a lot of that, a lot of pressure off the second unit in terms of being able to draw double teams and things like that and get guys open like Shamet, like Harris, like Bruce Brown. So it's a big deal. I agree with Matt. If the series starts to sway towards Milwaukee, then you might want to see what's going on with this. See if potentially is able to come back in the series. But looking at Game 3, both teams have been missed a lot of shots in that game. The Milwaukee's just been missing threes all series so far. These first 3 games, their 3-point percentage has been terrible compared to what it was in the regular season. So that's something they need to get together, and that's something that they've relied on. Kind of playing at a faster pace. They kind of changed up their offense a little bit as opposed to years past. So they need to get that 3-point shot going again for it to be more consistent if they even want anything close to challenge against the Nets, because even if the Nets aren't shooting well, if the Bucks aren't shooting well, the difference is they have Kevin Durant, who's able to create his own shot at a high level, and they have Kyrie Irving, who's able to create his own shot at a high level. You could always go to those two guys when it gets tough to make contested shots. And potentially still draw double teams to get other guys open. So, Milwaukee's gonna have to knock those shots down. I think even if they don't have Harden, I think they'll probably still be able to win this series. But going forward, it's definitely something to look at. See if he could get healthy, because we saw the injuries. It's affected the Lakers, affected some other teams as well. So Jamal Murray with Denver too. So it's serious. They're gonna need him. They're gonna need him to win a championship, because, like I said, he brings a lot to the table other than just the scoring factor. His playmaking, his ability to get those big men involved as well. Guys like Claxton, DeAndre Jordan. Whenever he plays, Blake Griffin, Jeff Green, he gets those guys really good looks.
So let's just go ahead and have this out here, because both of y'all said if it goes 2-2, maybe we'll see him. 3-2, we'll definitely see him. So game tomorrow, 3 p.m. on whatever network it's going to be on. Who do you all think's winning?
I'll start first by saying I think it's going to be Brooklyn. As much as I would love to see Milwaukee win, I just think Brooklyn is going to go into this game basically, in my opinion, want to shut it down. I feel like this is going to be exactly like how Brooklyn played against Boston. Brooklyn dominated the first 2 games against Boston. Tatum drops a 50-piece game 3, and then the rest of the series, Brooklyn dominates. I think that's how it's going to go. I just think Brooklyn is just the better team. I mean, as much as I would love for Milwaukee to make the series at 2-2 and possibly win it, because I did make a playoff bracket before and I did have Milwaukee upsetting Brooklyn, I just don't see it. I mean, as much as I want to believe it, I was gonna say I was wrong, and I was wrong about Milwaukee, and I just didn't see it. I just think Brooklyn, they were not good in game 3, and I think by the time game 4 comes around, I think it's gonna take a miracle for Milwaukee win. And by miracle, I mean it's one of those where Giannis is gonna have to have a monster game. Chris Middleton needs to follow up the same performance he had in game 3. And then Drew Holiday just has to play like he used to in New Orleans. Like we're talking, Milwaukee is going to need a miracle, and they're going to need to have another great defensive performance. Like holding Brooklyn to 83 points, that's impressive as a defense. Like I've never seen Brooklyn under 100 points in a while. So the only way that I see Milwaukee winning it is if their defense steps up, and if Mike Budenholzer just doesn't become a buffoon and doesn't get outcoached again. Because I think what we could possibly see is we could see maybe Mike Budenholzer coaching for his job, possibly in game 4. But I think it's one of those where Brooklyn, they're just going to come out, they're going to bounce back, take a 3-1 lead heading to Brooklyn, and then most likely close it out in 5 games.
What about you, CJ?
This is a must-win. This is a must-win for Milwaukee. I just feel like, again, like Matt said, it was a defensive battle, holding Brooklyn to under 100 to 83, under 90. It was very impressive. I mean, they did a really good job of that. If they want to win, 2 things. First off, Middleton and Giannis have to combine for at least 60. Both of those guys gotta get around 60 plus. In order for them to win this game. Like I said, you got to be able to compact guys like Kyrie and KD, because both of those guys are going to be around 55 plus every night, every single night. So they have to match that. And then for Giannis, Giannis did a great job. Getting to his spots. He has some mishaps here and there. I think for him, man, I think the next step. Everybody's talking about the shot. It's just. He has to work on his free throws, 100%.
Percentage or time?
Both. Both. It's really bad, man. It's really bad. And to me right now, he looks like a 2. When you win the championship team, he looks like a 2. Doesn't look like a 1, even though he has 2 back-to-back MVP, Defensive Player of the Year award. If you want to be a 1, you look at all the great ones, they've all had an ability to create their own shot off the dribble, be an elite shot creator. and shoot free throws when it matters. You don't want to be. You can't be a 1 in the NBA Finals Game 7 and they're fouling you, under 2 minutes because they know you're going to miss 1 or 2 free throws that can get back in the game.
And even have a 10-second violation.
Exactly. You can't be a 1 that way. So he has to improve, and that's what I'm saying. Middleton is going to be key. He has to be key because he's that guy that can create his own shot. So it's going to be tough. I'm gonna go with Brooklyn. In this game. I just feel like, they were right there. I mean, KD almost made the shot to tie it up and take it in the OT. So and then Bruce Brown, everybody's getting on Bruce Brown for the past couple of days. I think he's gonna have a better game. He played well actually, but I think he'll be a lot smarter with his decision making in late game situations. I think Brooklyn gets one on the road.
What's crazy is, and I'm just going to go back to that free throw violation. Like, the referee, like, if you all watched it, it was way past 10 seconds before he even called it. So it's crazy. Like, I heard on NBA radio yesterday on XM actually talking about how he's being stubborn and not wanting to change his routine. You're shooting 50%. Maybe you need to change your routine. Like, maybe you're taking too much time, but you're thinking about it. Maybe you just, get there and catch it and shoot it so you're not thinking and, concentrating. Because to shoot 50% from a free throw line, to be a small forward,
power forward,
I mean, that's pitiful, really. I mean, I'm sorry. Go granny shot if you're that bad. Do anything.
Yeah, so he looks like me out there on the free throw line. Like you're not supposed to look like me at the free throw line. You're supposed to be shooting 80%, 90%. And one point that I forgot to mention as well: if Milwaukee wants to win Game 4, their bench has to score more than 6 points. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable if your bench could only score 6 points. That's 6 points more than me, and I'm just sitting in my room talking sports. Come on now. You gotta if you're the bench unit of Milwaukee, you have to score more than 6 points. Now, don't one up me and score 7. Please score at least maybe 35, 40 points. Just give the starting 5 some help.
Just be relevant, basically, yeah. So both of you guys are going Brooklyn. So now I'm going to challenge my fans out here. If you think that you can pick the winner, go to mybookie.ag and use promo code USN100 and place that bet. Your first deposit that you make, you use that promo code again, USN100, and it will double your first deposit. So if you got a little steamy left over of $100 or so, go make that deposit, and they will match your first deposit. 50%, match it.
That was
I guess 50%. Thank you. I'm going to try my best on these transitions here. But, yeah, I think, honestly, it's 80-20 Brooklyn here. I will say this. Before this series started, I was scared because I'm a Miami Heat fan, and they swept Miami. I didn't think there was a chance of a sweep there. And I thought the Bucks coming into this would have a chance at this series. But now that I see them play, I don't think they have a chance. So that's just me. I'm surprised they even lost the game. I actually thought Brooklyn would end up sweeping this once the first 2 games are played. But that's, I think, a little different this year is when you see home court advantage, it does help a lot more than what we really thought it did. But I do think Brooklyn wins this one, goes home and finishes it out, and I don't think Harden plays at all. All right. Speaking of sweeps, let's go on over to the Suns, who are 3-0. Are we thinking sweep here? How are we feeling about this one? Let's start with you, CJ.
Yeah, I mean, I think we might have to get the brooms out, guys. I just feel like, Jokic had 32, 20, and 10. They still lost. I mean, that's tough. That's tough.
That's crazy.
They're missing their second guy. They're missing their second guy, and Murray. We saw what Murray did in the bubble last year. It went crazy. He had multiple 40-point games. Really was one of the catalysts to get that guy, get the Nuggets to the Western Conference Finals, and honestly, you look at great bigs. Great bigs usually followed up by good wings. So that's they don't have that right now, and I think Phoenix is just outmatching them. Phoenix is an all-around team, man. Phoenix is an all-around team. I did pick the Lakers. I picked it originally before everybody was got hurt and things like that. I picked the Lakers. I thought the Lakers would win. But watching the series, how they play, they have some defenders that can shoot. They have a great 3-level in point guard, wing, and big with CP3, Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. So that's going to be tough to stop. That's going to be tough to in order to get 4 wins in a series. You got to stop those guys, and all 3 of those guys can get 20. Any given moment, 2 guys get a double. Chris Paul with assists and Aiden with the rebounds. So it's going to be tough to stop Phoenix, man. It's going to be tough to stop Phoenix. You would hope that Denver comes out in Game 4 with some more life and comes out and plays a lot better. Hopefully those role players hit some big time shots and at least try to get one for the home crowd before they go back to Phoenix. But it's going to be tough, man. They're a really good defensive team, and in order for them to try to get a win, it's going to have to be a gritty type of win. They don't have anybody that can stop Booker. And Chris Paul, man, the way he's playing right now, he's playing. He's locked in. He's focused. He's getting double-digit assists with no turnovers. I don't know. I think it's going to be tough for Denver. I don't know how they're going to be able to get
the most underrated point guard in NBA history, Chris Paul.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, I know Skip, man. I mean, obviously they do the show for hyperbole and things like that, but to say he's not top 15 point guard ever, it's just laughable. To me, he's top 5. Gotta be. I mean, look at the numbers.
Listen, there's a group of guys that I hang out with. We do fantasy football and all this stuff, and we talk everything. You know how it is. And half of them are like, Chris Paul is not even top 15 of all time. And there's like 2 of us that were like, he's top 3 all time possibly. And they're like, he's not even top 5 of today's game. I'm like, how do you all even going to say that? Like, exactly. Like, what has he not done? Everywhere he's went, he's put the teams in a chance to win it all. Yes. Clippers, honestly, you take Chris Paul off that team, they didn't have anyone. Well, hold up. I know Blake Griffin and Jordan at their prime was wonderful. But in today's game, big men aren't really phenomenal or fundamentally sound at the post to make their own moves. Yes, they do different things.
Well, he needs today, right now.
Yeah. But you don't have nobody.
They're like the only guys.
Really. That's the only two. But rest of them now are rim protectors and alley-oopers. That's basically it. Like, you just have to be tall and can jump out of a gym. DeAndre Jordan, he won me many fantasy basketball leagues back in his prime because he would get 20 rebounds and 10 points, and all of them were off of dunks passed from Chris Paul. So, I mean, when I say take Chris Paul off that team, they're not nothing. Yes, they're athletic teams. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything from those 2 athletes, but Chris Paul made them who they were. Blake Griffin, obviously on a different caliber of Jordan, but that's where I kind of on with that. Chris Paul goes on to OKC. Look at OKC this year. I mean, the only thing really different is Chris Paul's not on that team. Yeah. He is a leader. Even when Houston actually had a chance, if Chris Paul didn't get hurt in that playoff run, I actually think Rockets would have won it all. James Harden just isn't the guy who can be that number 1. James Harden is not number 1 on this team, and look at him now. Just saying, Chris Paul, I'm your biggest fan. Okay, done with that. Matt, back to you. What do you think of the 3-0 possibly sweep coming in?
Call me a believer, but I think Denver isn't going to go down without a fight. I think Denver.
That's obvious. Do you think they're winning a game?
Yes, I think they're winning a game. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay attention to what Charles Barkley says on NBA on TNT, because if he guarantees the Suns win, that means it's going to be Denver. But if he thinks Denver is going to win a game, then that means it's going to be a sweep. But I personally think the way how Nikola Jokic played, he's an MVP. I think he'll find a way to get 1 win. I just personally think Denver is just, they don't have Jamal Murray, but I just think they're too good to get swept. They're too good of a team to get swept. I mean, I'm just more disappointed in the fact of my man Nikola Jokic dropped 30 points, 20 boards, 10 assists, but the team still lost by 14.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
How do you lose by 14 when your MVP goes out and gets 30 points, 20 boards, 10 assists? I mean, I understand if you lose by like 6 points, 4 points, at least the game was close. But I mean, you're talking about your team got your butts whipped. Like, how are you going to disrespect your MVP like that? Like, that's literally straight up disrespectful. It reminds me of like Dame Lillard dropping 55 points and the team still losing in double overtime. It's just disrespectful to your player, man. It's just And we also can't discount the fact that we had a fan get his ass beat. like the Suns fan beat up a Nuggets fan's ass, and he said in his face, "Suns in 4." Like you're like we're talking my man's getting disrespected to the left.
Hold up, we got a
and the
comment
right.
here. Man, who's the hottie in the pink polo? Wow, your name's Michael Lawson too, man. Speaking of YouTube, thank you so much for giving us a chat here on YouTube. But guys, in case you miss anything we do that's live, we also funnel everything to our YouTube channel. Go check it out. Unwrapped Sports Network, obviously on YouTube, is all you got to find. Keep going.
That
I don't
was
know how that, man.
Wow, that was crazy.
I like how we matched the pink polo too to mine. Perfect.
that is
Point.
that's wild. But I mean, call me a believer in teams not getting swept. I just think if I'm Denver, I don't want to go out in a sweep. I don't want to be known as, yeah, your team has an MVP who dropped 30, 20, and 10, and you got your ass swept by Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Clint Capella. Like that's not like if I'm Mike Malone, I'm not going to go out like that. I cannot go out Debo style, rip your bike, snatch your chain in a sweep. Like I can't go out like that. I have to at least get one game. I don't care if you lose game 5 in the Valley. Just as long as they don't lose game 4, I think people would understand because people look at, if you get swept, like it's just utter humiliation. Like look at what happened to Miami Heat. People are now slandering the Heat with disrespect, saying like, man, dude, this team really made it to the finals? And they got swept? Really?
Okay, anyways, we won't go on into that, but I'm going to interrupt and I apologize. But here's my thing on that. I don't think that they'll get swept, but at the same time, what more can they do? I mean, the Joker did everything. There's no way he could have a better game than what he had. 30, 20, and 10, was it?
Yeah, 30, 20, and 10. Just have his other role players step up. Have Aaron Gordon score more than 4 points and 4 rebounds. It has to be the other. I just want to see more effort out of Denver. I mean, they've just been getting whipped the last 3 games. I just want to see more effort out of Denver. Now, obviously, Phoenix is going to win this series. There's no team. There's a stat in the NBA where teams that go up 3-0 are 142-0. There's no way Phoenix Suns are going to blow a 3-0 series lead. There's just no way. There's no way they're going to lose this series. They have all the momentum going.
All right, Chuck. Here he is, Charles Barkley. Just called it.
No, that's not true. Because they call me wise cheese. I'm a wise guy. But I just simply think now I just think Denver has to win this game 4. I just think for the pride of the city of Denver and the Denver Nuggets, they cannot get embarrassing swept because we look at the city of Denver already got embarrassed by the Avalanche. Like Avalanche were up 2-0 against Vegas. They lost 4 straight. They cannot afford to see another Denver team lose 4 straight games. The city of Denver just can't have it.
I mean, I'm sitting here trying to think, what's the Denver hockey team?
The Colorado Avalanche.
Oh, yeah, that's totally right. You just said Avalanche. I'm sorry, but you said Colorado, and I was sitting there like, wait, I'm confused here. Okay, so anyway, since I had a very bad moment of hockey there, that's how much hockey I watch. But I don't see there's more that can go on for them, like as far as an improvement. Yes, they're benching everyone. They're role players. Aaron Gordon, who a couple of days ago said they played soft and comes out and does nothing. But
4 points,
I feel like here's the thing, though. If the Suns, and I do think this is a very big possibility, I think the Suns can actually win the whole thing. Brooklyn may be in their way. It's really, in my opinion, going to come down to Utah and the Suns as far as out of the West. So if the Suns go on to the playoffs finals or the finals, I don't think Denver is hurt too bad if they get swept because you don't have Murray. You didn't have Murray your whole season. That was, in a way, your number one guy, but Joker has become obvious the number one at that man, I can't think of the word I'm trying to say. For the team. Well, I wasn't going to say team. Organization is what I was trying to say. So I don't think they're completely discouraged if they are swept here. Now, the Heat, I think, is a bigger discouragement because they were full staff basically by the end of the year. I mean, they had COVID and all that stuff and the injuries throughout the year. But at this point, you still don't have your number 2 guy. You made a trade to try to bring Aaron Gordon in to make you a better team. But still, you're without Jamal playoff Murray. So I'm okay with the sweep. Granted, it is a big slap in the face to be swept, but sometimes you got to understand where you're at. So that's how I feel on that. Now let's move on, or unless you all got anything else you all want to talk about on the Suns there. Let's move back over to the East and talk about the 76ers' dominant game 3. What do we think about that series now?
Man, I'll also off first by saying I just think one team is clearly head and shoulders better than the next. I mean, I just simply think the Philadelphia 76ers, they have the playoff experience. They have the playoff veteran coach. They're just clearly playing better than the Atlanta Hawks. I just think the Atlanta Hawks are a team where they're young and on the rise, and it shows. You know, you could only go so far with Trae Young. I mean, I give them props for even winning a playoff series because I was wrong with them against the New York Knicks. I thought the Knicks were going to win the series, but Trae Young is that dude. I just simply think, you know, it's just, you know, Philadelphia is just showing that they're going to be a team that's going to be trying to compete for a championship. You know, and it's also one of those where Doc Rivers is trying to coach and, you know, trying to avoid the embarrassment of what happened to him last year. Because a lot of people might not have forgotten, he did blow a 3-1 lead with the LA Clippers last year against the Denver Nuggets. So if I'm Doc Rivers, I'm going to coach out there and just be like, you know what, I'm going to take things personally. I'm going to dominate the Wizards in 5 games. I'm going to dominate the Hawks in 5. And get ready for the Brooklyn Nets and Milwaukee Bucks. And then kind of go from there. But I just simply think, you know, Philadelphia's playing good. And one player that's playing good that I'm impressed with is Joel Embiid. I thought for sure Philadelphia was going to approach his situation of injury, you know, take it lightly, you know, play him maybe 20, 25 minutes. No, looks like they're throwing him in full game, and he looks good. So, I mean,
he
if
played 34 minutes last game.
Exactly, 34 minutes. And if Joel Embiid can play 34, 35 minutes, puts up good numbers, the 76ers could be a legit team. Now, I personally think they're going to beat Atlanta. I think it's going to be in 5 games. They'll be in the Eastern Conference Finals. And in my opinion, if I'm Philadelphia, it's going to be very interesting who the matchup is. Because if Philadelphia gets matched up against Milwaukee, I like Philadelphia's chances against Milwaukee. But if Philadelphia has to get matched up against Brooklyn with James Harden returning, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough matchup, but let's see what happens there. But overall, between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Atlanta Hawks, it's just simply one team is clearly has more experience playoff-wise than the other, and, you know, it's starting to show. You still have to give Atlanta props. You have to give Trae Young props. You have to give the head coach, Nate McMillan, props. You know, mid-season, being on the Atlanta Hawks, turning them into a 5th seed, bringing them the camaraderie together, winning a playoff series. You have to give them the credit there. They just simply ran into a team that's just has more playoff experience than them themselves.
Yeah, Philip, it's really disappointing that the Hawks don't have their wing guys. You know, they lose DeAndre Hunter with the meniscus tear. Cam Reddish has been out. You know, I feel like those 2 guys would have really made a difference in this series. Abilities to knock down shots and their length. They really don't have anybody that can guard Tobias Harris. If he's able to get to his right hand, it's going to be tough to stop. Like you said, Embiid's been playing out of his mind. You know, these last 3 games, averaging, you know, over 35, so over 30. So he's a beast. They don't have an answer for that. I mean, he's just too dominant, and those other guys stepped up. So I mean, I feel like could Atlanta get one on the road? I mean, at home in Atlanta, very possible. But those other guys are going to have to knock down shots. Going to have to knock down some shots. And Bogdanović going to have to play better. Gallinari's going to have to play better. Capella's going to have to be better in the middle. But I mean, I just like Matt said, they just have more experience. Philadelphia's been here already, been in the second round. multiple times. Ben Simmons, it's a tough matchup. If he's got a full head of steam, he's able to get to the basket and get to the rim. He's tough to stop because if you try to double him, he has the ability to play make and set up for others. So I think it's going to be a tough road for Atlanta, but I think they really got some really good experience. Could they get one more? It's very possible, but I don't see it, man. I feel like I'm going to go with Philadelphia at 5.
What about with Danny Green now being out for 2 to 3 weeks? Do we think that's going to affect anything in this series, or is it going to be something more about possibly next series?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't playing great when he was there. He wasn't really knocking down shots. He's a solid defender, but he's obviously not what he was like when he was on the Spurs multiple years ago. But you're going to need guys like Shake Milton. You're going to need guys like Korkmaz to be able to create their own shot in that second unit. Korkmaz is a good catch and shoot guy. He's going to have to shoot the ball when he's open, hit at a consistent level in order for them to just get past the series. I mean, I feel like they're going to definitely get to the Eastern Conference Finals as it looks like against Brooklyn. That's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I will say this. I'm not more worried about not having Danny Green on the offensive side, more of the defensive side, possibly against the Nets. A little more length there to help play some defense. But, okay, that's really all I had for today. As I look here, let me change back. Just going ahead and announcing this, and I'm sure you guys know it. I'm going to talk to it with you all a little bit about this now. The Clippers ended up winning 132-106 over the Jazz. Utah still is in the lead of 2-1 for the series. What are y'all thinking about this series now? And I will say this before anyone makes any comment. Paul George did show up for this game. He had 30 – where did it go? Wrong team. He had 34 points tonight. I'm sorry, 31 points. Leonard had 34. So we didn't get playoff P. We got regular season P tonight.
It's crazy how the other way is not how it's supposed to be. It's
Michael throwing some fire out there.
No. I'm glad he showed up. I like Paul George. He's probably one of my favorite players, actually. Yeah, so what we thinking on this? CJ, let's start with you.
I picked the Clippers.
Matt said I'm throwing fire.
I picked the Clippers in 7 in this matchup. I feel like, again, if Paul George is going to be the X factor, he has to be. He's going to have to be able to step up, man. I mean, Kawhi is going to get you 30. He's going to have to be able to get 30 as well. Who else could get 30 on the Jazz? Maybe Bogdanovich, Clarkson here and there for sure. He definitely had a great season this year, winning 6th Man of the Year. So he could get it, but I just feel like they're just more talented. And this is the Clippers. This is a great window for them to try to get to the finals at least with the Lakers being in there. And the Nuggets, the team they had problems with last year on the way out. So Kawhi, Paul George has to be an X factor. It was great that he had 25 going into the fourth and not 25 for the game. Like you said, that means he was aggressive. Kawhi's going to get his, and you already know that his shot has to go down. And if his shot's able to go down, it just helps for other guys. He's an underrated playmaker as well. He makes the right passes, great reads. And the other guy stepped up. He scored 132 points. That means the other guy stepped up as well on that team. And I feel like it's going to be a back and forth battle. For some reason, they like being down 0-2. I don't know what it is, but got to give credit to Ty Lue as well, man. This is a guy that's been down in series, as we know, the infamous 2016 NBA Finals against Golden State. He's underrated, man. He's underrated. People try to say, LeBron. The only reason why he won a championship is because he's with LeBron. And I mean, of course, LeBron's a great player, and he's every single coach he's had, except maybe a couple, he's taken them to the finals. But Ty Lue's ability to adjust each and every game, he's a complete chess player when it comes to being a head coach and making Quinn Snyder work. And I think it's going to be another back and forth battle, and that's why I feel like the Clippers will probably edge it out in 7 games.
Did Rondo not play tonight?
I'm not sure. I have to check.
He has 0 minutes, so I guess he didn't play that. It upsets me a little bit. What about you, Matt? What are you thinking here?
I personally think this was a good win. This was a good win for the Clippers. I felt like this was a must-win for them. Their season was on the line. I mean, you look at they've been down this road before. They were down 0-2 against the Mavericks. Not only having a game 3 at home, on the road, and then they came back in, and then they go on and they win the series. So I mean, now I personally think this Jazz team is different. I mean, You got Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, a duo that actually works, not with Luka and Porzingis, aka some people call him. I think what was it, Dingus Pingus, or something?
Oh wow!
Something right? Wasn't there like a meme like on draft day? I'm not sure. Do you remember CJ?
Oh, I forgot.
For Porzingis or something like Dingus, like Pingus or something. I don't know.
I forget what they used to call him.
I don't know, but he ain't the unicorn. Is just different. But
for Dallas, it's the scheme though, bro. I think it's a lot more of the scheme than Porzingis. I mean, yes, granted he was out, so that's why they kind of had to change the way they play. But if you look at how they play, it's like the Rockets when Harden was there. It's like, Harden get the mismatch off the screen, and then everybody else just space the floor. So Porzingis has a lot more to his game than that. So they're gonna have to change up a little bit. But he does have to step up too. But I think Rick Carlisle has to tweak some things if they want to make that duo work.
I really think Luka's got to. Well, he's got to trust him more. I think Porzingis not being in there so much because I can't believe I'm about to quote TikTok here. But a dude actually, I was watching it was on my featured there, and actually a guy broke down some of the footage. It was really good. Actually said, a lot of people saying Porzingis was horrible this year and blamed him for the series, but it actually showed like probably 6, 7, 8 quick clips where it was a pick and roll or pick and pop, and Luka forced the action, and Porzingis was out there just standing. Actually, there was a couple times he exaggerated his hand, like, okay, So I don't know. Maybe they'll go back to the film and look at this, be like, okay, Luka, yes, you're phenomenal. You're a MVP candidate year in, year out now. But you're going to have to learn to pass it here on certain situations. Porzingis in there for a reason on this pick and pop because we know he can knock it down. And by doing so, you'll be less double teamed. So exactly. I think it's a win-win when they figure that out.
Yeah, or give it to Porzingis on the block. I mean, he was doing that a lot in New York. Whoever the guard was, Jared Jack, those guys were just giving it to Porzingis on the block, and he was using his height, his size to just shoot over guys. They got to get back to that a little bit, man, because, he is talented. I think he's more than just a stretch four.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. But back to the Clippers-Jazz series, I felt like this was a win the Clippers had to have. You can't afford to go down 0-3 and expect to win. But now, do I think the Clippers are going to come back and win the series like CJ does? No. I personally think this is going to be a good series. But I personally think Game 4 is going to decide the direction of the series. Whoever wins Game 4 is going to have an interesting shot here in this series, because I'll tell you right now, if the Jazz go up 3-1, it's going to be very hard for the Clippers to come back from. But if the Clippers tied up at 2, it's going to be an interesting ball game in Game 5. But I personally believe in the Jazz. I think the Jazz are going to bounce back in Game 4. I think they're going to take commanding 3-1 lead. But I mean, CJ isn't wrong from the fact that the Clippers, they could win this series in 7. It is a very good possibility where they could. I personally I don't think so. I mean, there's just something about the Clippers franchise. They're just cursed at making the conference finals. They blew a 3-1 lead last year. I called it last year. I made a bracket last year, and I had Denver winning in 7. And what happens? Denver wins in 7 because they come back from down 3-1. I mean, I'm one of those people where I'm gonna keep riding with history until you prove me wrong. Clippers, I'm gonna keep riding the history of you not making the conference finals until you prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Try and win this series. I dare you. Go out there and win Game 4. Don't go down 3-1. I dare you. See what happens.
Who do you think wins the series?
Yeah, I got the Clippers in 7.
7.
Yeah, I got the Clippers in 7 in that one.
Here's the thing. I feel like, and I don't know why we do this because I'm guilty of this year in, year out, home court advantage really matters. Like I said earlier, I mean, I think we realized how much it mattered last year. And a lot of time these teams get up 2-0 because they have 2 games right away at home. We're like, oh, the series is almost over. I can't believe this. And then it switches to go to their home, and it's like, oh, they won 1. I still think it's going to be the other team's series because they're up 2-1. And then all of a sudden it's tied 2-2, and we're like, oh, my goodness, what's going on? I feel like we forget home court advantage really matters. I'm actually going to say the Clippers go ahead and win their next game in this and even it out 2-2. I want to give it to the Clippers to win in 7 with CJ here. But Utah has just been number 1 all year long. So, I mean, it's hard to go against the Utah team that's always been that. But Utah, I don't think, has ever won a NBA Finals. So if
No, they
history
haven't.
is going there, it's kind of hard to go either way. But what I'm more interested in is if the Clippers win this series, and let's just say that the Philadelphia 76ers somehow lose this series, is it a slap in the face to Doc Rivers, like, hey, we made the right choice for the Clippers? Or is it nothing good there? Or vice versa, if 76ers move on, Doc led them to the promised land here in the next round, and the Clippers fall out here in this series, does Doc, like, put out this tweet, oh, look what I did now? Like, how do you all see that? Is there a storyline going on there, or am I looking too much into this?
I'll start first by saying this. If Philadelphia does not make it past Atlanta, Doc Rivers and the entire Philadelphia organization is going to get ridiculed by the Philly fans. This is the same fan base that booed Santa. They're not going to be scared to boo Doc Rivers for failing to make it past the second round. If the 76ers don't make it past the second round, it's going to be an embarrassment. Probably one of the worst moments in their franchise history, because how are you going to be the number one seed and get embarrassed by the Atlanta Hawks? I mean, come on now. That's just not how it's supposed to work. Now, if it were the other way around, if the Clippers were to lose in the second round and Philadelphia moves on, I don't simply think it'll be a slap in the face celebration style. I just think it'll be one of those where the Clippers asked for this. The Clippers didn't want to be the 3 seed because they didn't want to play the Lakers in the first round, even though we fell to a 7th seed and never had to play a 3rd seed. And it would just simply be a situation for the Clippers of, you put yourself in that hole. If you were the 3rd seed, you didn't have to play the Jazz. You would just had to play Phoenix. You didn't have to be in the situation. So I just think from that standpoint, now if the Clippers make it further than Philadelphia, I wouldn't say it's a slap in the face to Doc Rivers and his coaching. I would just simply think it would be one of those to where the Clippers, they just played better at that time. They were playing better at the moment with Ty Lue than Doc Rivers. So I personally don't think it'll be a slap in the face if the Clippers make it further than the Sixers. I just think it would be one of those where the Sixer fans will just flat out ridicule Doc till next season. They'll boo Philadelphia 76ers from off season all the way till the start of the season. And, that is that. But, if the Clippers fail to make it past the second round again, which I think they will, and continue on their sorry franchise of 54, 55 years with no conference finals, then it would just simply be, where do the Clippers go from there? Because you got rid of Doc Rivers because they blew a 3-1 lead, and you still can't make it past the second round, and you still have Kawhi Leonard, you still have Paul George. It would just be more of a situation of, is this team cursed or is the front office cursed?
Yeah, I think it just ran its course with Doc. I mean, Doc had been there since Chris Paul and Blake and DeAndre, like Michael talked about earlier. And then, then bringing in Kawhi and PG. And, they talked about the chemistry not working, bringing a guy like Ty Lue. Seems to be a guy that everybody's comfortable with in terms of coaching. And like I said, they battled back last series against Dallas, came back, and here they are against Utah trying to do the same thing. So there were some issues there with Doc, and Doc's been known for, blowing some leads in some series in his coaching career, even though he is a championship head coach. But yeah, it was just time. I think it was the right fit. I think it's a good fit for Philadelphia to get a guy like Doc. I feel like it's definitely an upgrade from Brett Brown, who they had for years prior. I feel like Brett Brown was really never supposed to be the coach that long. But they battled with so many injuries and things like that. He was kind of just supposed to be like the coach while they were tanking, and then they find a better coach to help them get over the hump. And I kind of think now they're in that position right now, if they're able to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I feel like they're both in great spots. I mean, they could. I mean, barring anything crazy, they could meet in the finals, and that would be crazy storylines.
Wow, that would be great.
They could. I don't see it happening, but it's. I mean, you never know. You never know. We see injuries. Injuries have happened in the playoffs so far, and can sway things. But yeah, that would be pretty wild. But yeah, I think both coaches are doing great at their respective teams, and for the Clippers' sake, they have to continue to advance. They can't get knocked out right now. I think Western Conference Finals keeps this team together. Anything less than that, they probably try to see it potentially making a breakup, or Kawhi might leave, and I take that player option.
Yeah, and for CJ's sake, those New York Knicks building a bright future, wouldn't have to trade anything to get Kawhi. It was in the second round.
Yeah, I'm not keeping my hopes up with that, man. I like what we're doing now. Got a young team, young roster. Guys want to pull up, try to do something special in New York. That's cool too. If not, I'm down with developing the young guys, and we'll see, man. We'll see, man. I think we're just building a foundation. I'm cool with that. It's the past, 10, 15 years.
Relevant.
It's been sad. Yeah, it's just relevance, exactly. Making it enticing for big time free agents to come to New York. That's what you got to do. And I think they're at that stage right now. So. I'm chilling.
All right, guys. I think that will pretty much wrap it up for us today. Again, guys, if you enjoyed the show, if you made it this long, go to teesprings.com/store/unwrapped and buy the Backstop Banter gear, buy the Count the Bucket gear, buy everything that's out there. What's the show you guys got?
Got the hard count.
Hard count. Yes, go buy all that. Matt, what do you got?
I have a podcast. We have a great friend Caleb Conant, MCS Real Sports Podcast.
There we go. Go check that stuff out. And of course, CJ said his earlier, the Guard Up, right?
Yes, Guard Up Podcast. Matt just dropped a new episode, so guys, make sure you check that out, man.
There we go.
Thank you for noticing the notifications. There we go.
Got you,
Yes. All righty, guys. Well, again, Matt, is that all that you need to promote there? Do you want to promote some more? Go ahead.
Just promo Twitter handle down below. Instagram, Matt_score20. Like CJ mentioned, uploaded episode 54, the MCS Real Sports Podcast, and it is available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. On my Instagram, there's a link tree in the bio. It gives you access to where the podcast is available on all platforms. Check those out. Leave us a rating. And, enjoy the podcast content. And enjoy all the stuff we upload.
There we go. CJ, go ahead.
Yeah, again, Guard Up Podcast. You can find me on Twitter at CJ Sports. Guard Up Podcast at Guard Up Pod on Instagram. The Hard Count with Anthony Conover, Connie. Michael's co-host on Backstop Banter, live every Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for having me in this episode, man. Talking some basketball. I'm trying to be more consistent without talking some hoops, so thanks for having me, man.
And, of course, I am at MD Lawson 00. We do miss Amber tonight, who is usually on here. She is the main lady. I about said main man. I just apologize there, Amber, of Count the Bucket. And we do miss her tonight. I hope she gets feeling better tomorrow. She mentioned she just had a rough day, been out in the sun, was feeling pretty weak right now. So, Amber, get to feeling better, eat the meds, get some rest, and get ready to go. We do miss you. Air Show Count the Bucket is every Saturday at 10 p.m., 10:30 Eastern Time, just really depending on how I get out from my retail work. And also on Thursday is Backstop Banter with Connie. As we talked about, again, it's 10 p.m., 10:30 Eastern Time again on that. So go check everything we out. Also, like I said earlier, go to YouTube, subscribe to our channel. It's Unwrapped Sports Network. Every show that we have through our whole list of shows that we've got will be funneled through there, is what I like to say, and we'll be at least able to view back on that as well. So, guys, thank you again so much for coming on here and talking some hoops with us. Have a good night.
Have a good night, guys.